Hello everyone, welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita with Future Pastimes. And in this video, I wanted to share with Cosmic Encounter fans the concept for the Special Systems project that I've been working on for the past couple of years. It's essentially the classic Eon version of the game's reverse hex systems reimagined and improved and built upon for a Fantasy Flight edition. Now, this was proposed to Fantasy Flight as part of yet another expansion, which they have ultimately decided they don't want to go forward with. And so, an entire expansion's worth of content was designed, not just the special systems, but other stuff. And so, the point of this video is just to show people what could have been, how we wanted to approach the special systems. And certainly, if you think it's a good idea, we'd love to hear from you. But let Fantasy Flight know. Not that I actually think any kind of a pressure campaign would have any effect, but you never know. I think that what I would love to see, or what I would have loved to see, was some kind of giant storage solution that would hold the base game and all 7 expansions, plus this one. Because after Cosmic Odyssey, nothing fits in one box anymore, and and people seem to be obsessed with the idea of fitting everything into one box. But some kind of crowd-funded thing like Gale Force 9 did with their Firefly game, and what they're going to do with their Dune Kwisatz Haderach edition next year. I would love to see one day for Cosmic Encounter. So you never know. But let's dive in. I want to show you guys the system. So the original Eon version of the game, they had 6 hexes. Those were your systems. They had 5 planets on them. And the way that expansion worked was that they were stickers, actually, that you put on the back of your hexes, hence the reverse hex. And each system was unique, giving you yet another advantage for your player. It was almost like having double alien. So you had a special power for your system, mostly for when you were encountering in your own system, so as the defense. Mayfair, when they published the game, they put those reverse hex effects on the hexes because they published all 6 hexes as part of the base game. And they kept most of the original Eon reverse hex system effects, but they replaced a couple with some new ones. And there have been a number that have been designed by fans. Some of those you can find on the Warp. And so what I've done is I've designed 42 systems. So some of them are based on the fan ones from the Warp, some that have been kicked around on Board Game Geek, a lot of them that I've just come up with on my own, and we've been play testing them for a couple of years, and pretty happy generally with how they work and how they're implemented. Many of them require some special punch board items, but not all of them. And so we're going to take a look at the first 7. This is part 1 of a series, and most of these are the sort of reimagining of the original ones by and large. So we're going to dive in here. We have the white system is set up here with the gas giant system. So this is one of the classic ones. And I will point out that the artwork here in the top right-hand corner for all of these, what I'm going to call the special system cards, this is artwork that my son Locken did. He illustrated the planets in Dune Expansion 3, the Ikaz and Moritani one. And I told him I was working on this. He asked if he could illustrate these just for fun. So I really like how they turned out. What you can see is you'll have the name on the top of the card. You'll have some art there. You'll have a little diagram that tells you how to use your extra pieces. There's some little setup information there. So ships, it lets you know 4 on your satellite planet, 6 on the gas giant. How you lose your alien power will be some information. Then you have a description of the effect here, some flavor text, illustration of the components, and similar sort of alien power or other card effects, like when do you use these things. So with the gas giant, as you can see, you're going to have 16 of your forces starting off here on the gas giant, and then you have 4 on what we call the satellite planet. This is your player color. So you got the white planet, sort of neutral colored gas giant token that I made. And the way it works is, as the defense, before the encounter cards are selected, you can withdraw. If you're defending the gas giant, you can withdraw as many of those ships as you want, as long as they're clearly it's clear that they are on the opposite side of the planet. So, for instance, if somebody were saying, yes, I'm going to encounter the gas giant here, you could say, all right, these four are going to be defending, and these guys are bystanders here. They're just watching. So it's just four. Or they could say, yeah, I'm just gonna defend with one. And so part of the allure of the gas giant system, of course, is let's say that green wins and they get a colony on the gas giant. Well, that's it. They can't get any more colonies on this planet. They can get one on the satellite. But then if your system comes up again, they can't get anything out of that. So it is a little bit of a deterrent. It's more, the gas giant player is hopefully going to make some deals, and hopefully by giving colonies on foreign planets where they have a foreign colony, which you can do. So if white has a colony over here and they're defending here, green already has a system, so green is like, come on, let's make a deal here, which is good for white because they can get a foreign colony as well. So white can say, sure, I'll give you a colony over here. That is a perfectly legal thing to do. So that is it. Of course, the other thing that they can do is they can say, yeah, I'm defending with all of these ships here. So in this case, yeah, I've got 15 ships that are and maybe it's more. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to defend with 16. So that's pretty good. Although if you lose, that's pretty punishing. So that's how the gas giant works. It's really unchanged. Didn't really see any need. It was always an interesting effect. I love the idea of having one just gigantic planet. Now, it used to just be the one planet. The one change that I did make, and I can't remember if this was my idea or if this was Bill Martinson's idea. So credit to him for anything in here that looks familiar to him. But I was like, yeah, let's have this in there. It's good to indicate the player color. It's just a nice reminder. And I think it doesn't step on Gas Giant's toes too much. Certainly at a lower player count. So if you're playing 3 or 4 players, this system's going to come up a lot more frequently. And that's going to really put a damper on the progress for the other players, especially if it happens early in the game and white doesn't have any foreign colonies, or they've already, like I have a foreign colony with green, so I can't really give them a colony there. That's not going to be helpful. So this, I think, gives the gas giant player a little bit more to work with. It gives everyone a little bit more to work with, but there you have it. So that's our first system, is the gas giant system, a classic and fun to have. We're going to switch things up here. Our second system is one of the ones that was created by Mayfair, so the World Ships system. So as you can see, and this one, I don't have it on this one, but late in our playtesting, we started to implement an alert level. So you can see here underneath the illustration there, you've got a little green bubble, kind of like the ones you would see on the combo cards. So this lets you know this is a pretty basic one, and I think that Gas Giant would probably pretty basic. So that's where it goes. And the components don't match here. Those were my original sort of snag from the internet. These components were done by Lock-in. So that's you're going to put these on next to the planets, and you're putting their blast side face up. The other side is sort of it's not blasting. So there's the illustration. Another one that I really like lets you know how to set up the tokens. Your ships are evenly distributed. Power is 3 planets. So as long as you have 3 planets, you have your alien power. So this is going to come with some Destiny cards, the World Ships Destiny cards, and you're going to shuffle those into the Destiny deck, and each of your rockets will be blast side face up, and then you're going to deal yourself 3 Destiny cards before the game begins to form a cache. They're not part of your hand, and so during the game, anytime a Destiny card is drawn by another player, you may play one of your Destiny cards from your cache to override it. And when another player draws a World Ships Destiny card, you follow its instructions. So here it says, encounter the World Ships player in their system. If that player wins the encounter or makes a deal, they may reactivate a rocket token and add 1 Destiny card to their cache or gain 2 rewards. So the other thing is that when you when another player, each time you play a Destiny card, you're going to deactivate one of your rockets. So this is a little indicator for how many times you can use your abilities. So you're looking to reactivate them, or you're just like, I want to get some rewards. So that's what the World Ships one does, and this is one of my favorites. I really enjoy the effect, and I love the look of the World Ships, and the tokens I think look great as well. So back over here to our next one. It's another classic. It's the rings system. So this was originally in both the Eon and the Mayfair edition, although it was just one hex that had a big illustration of a ringed planet. Bill Martinson had the idea of having these ring tokens. He originally had the planet on one side and then just a bunch of rings this way. Just in setting it up in Tabletop Simulator here, we set it up this way almost by mistake, and we just kind of like the way it looks. So that's what we're going with. You can see that there's little illustrations on the rings, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and so it lets you know that again, it's the setup here is free distribution. So you can say, well, I want to put more of my ships on here, or what have you. So yeah, you can distribute these however you want when you set up. So. And there's a reason why you might want to do that. So as we look at there, when you're the defense in the system, after encounter totals have been determined and all their effects have been taken into account, you may increase your total by the number shown on the targeted planet ring, or by 10 if defending the normal planet of your player color. Then you're going to add an additional one for every bystander ship on the same ring or planet. And then the rest of the text is like, what about crazy effects that move planets and whatnot? That's all Bill Martinson stuff. And so, yeah, this is one where you're like, yeah, I've got the 5 ships here. I can add another 4. And you might, with the lower number ones, you might want to put more ships on there, or you might be like, you know what, I'm probably going to lose that. If first time I get attacked, they're going to go after the 2 ring anyway. So I'm just going to I'm going to put up a very nominal defense here, and just take the loss. Use the opportunity to get rid of a card, maybe even negotiate and just get one compensation there. It's up to you. So, but it's nice. You've got this extra effects. It's a nice deterrent. It's good for making deals. People are like, oh, do I really want to face a +8 over here? And let's say that they've given some colonies. And so these bystander ships are going to be adding in as well, and you really want to have some control when you're making the deals about, all right, yeah, it's colony for colony exchange, but you're going to put I want you to put at least 2 ships on this ring right here, so I can get that +2 if anybody else tries to get a colony here. So that is how the rings system works, and again, it's a really nice classic effect that didn't really need to be changed. Next up, we have the pulsar system. So this was an Eon system that was not kept by the Mayfair. They dumped pulsar, I believe, if I remember correctly, and replaced it with something else. But I think it's still pretty good. So you're just using your planets. There's no other special things, but there is a pulsar token, and it has a positive side and a negative side. And so it's just... if you can imagine, that is a minus symbol and that is a plus symbol. Should be pretty easy to tell the difference. So you're evenly distributed, so it's going to be 4 on each of your planets. Same normal keeping your power. So whenever you're encountered on a planet in your home system after the Alliance phase, take the pulsar disk and set it next to the hyperspace gate with either the positive or negative side face up. If that positive side is face up, the encounter proceeds and is resolved normally. If its negative side is face up, the encounter is resolved in the opposite manner, meaning the lower total wins. This negative condition applies to other game effects as well. For example, in a negative pulse encounter with antimatter involved, the higher total wins. And in an upset declared by loser, the winner would win. So, yeah, it's got a little more oomph than the original pulsar. With the negative side is face up, winning allies, offensive allies will gain rewards instead of landing on the targeted planet, and winning defensive allies will land on the planet instead. If the game effect reverses ally gains, the negative token reverses it back. So that is also an added effect. I just felt like let's jazz it up a little bit more. This would probably be a yellow alert just because there's a little bit more thinking involved and trying to like, all right, so wait a minute, what happens here? But it does do a little reverse rewards thing here. So if blue is attacking and purple is an ally, um, and we're negative pulsing, then purple is not going to get a colony if their side wins. And so that I think really, I think that's the most interesting thing about this. Not just the hey, the winner wins and the loser, or the winner loses and the loser wins, or that's not really so much. It's um, the lower total wins. That's really it's not. So it's not loser. It's more like antimatter. Um, but it's fun that it can mess with antimatter's stuff. But you're still doing this um, in the alliance phase, so that is important to take into consideration. But yeah, I prefer this version of Pulsar. I think it's more interesting decisions for the Pulsar player to make and for the other players to consider. So moving along here, we have another one that was both in Eon and in Mayfair. It's the Space Dust system. So as you can see from the setup, you've got a planet, but none of your ships are going to start on that planet. They're all each ship in this Space Dust system is really its own planet. So if you're being encountered, you're having one of your ships is being targeted, and so you only have one ship in that encounter. And if multiple players establish a colony there, they're just going to stack their ships, and each player that was on the winning side there on the offense will establish their own colony, which they can't then share with anybody else. So, and there's a little bit more that's going on here. So, as you can see here, their Destiny cards are not in the deck. So remove your cards from the Destiny deck. They're not part of your hand. Your ships are the Space Dust. Each of your ships can be encountered. So we talked about that. But as the defense, you may play one of your Destiny cards as a reinforcement +10. Once played, it goes into the discard pile. And then it says the lone planet here cannot be targeted by other players or effects, but you may place your ships there anytime you would send ships to colonies. And then once you occupy this lone planet, you say, oh, good, I've got somebody on here. You can offer, when you make a deal, you can offer colonies there. But the other thing is that you can play your reinforcement cards on the offense. So you have a limited number of these, so you got to really think about when you're going to use it. Probably saving them for when you have your own colony here, or to prevent the win if somebody's like, well, I'm going after this one and taking my best shot there. All right, on to we have binary. Binary system was a Mayfair one. There was a crazier version of it in the Eon. It was called Six Pact. I think binary is a little more elegant. So you have 4 planets, and you're evenly distributed. So it's going to be 5 on each. And then for power, as long as you control 1 planet for each half. So the way this works is you're going to draw an additional alien power at the start of the game and assign 1 of your aliens to the left half of your system and 1 alien to the other half at both flares. Any additional allies, aliens that you have or gain must be assigned to one side or the other. Throughout the game, you may use either of your alien powers or both if applicable. So it's very nice, but you're vulnerable. So if you lose these 2 planets, then you've lost your blue side alien power, or powers if you've managed to get more than 1. So it's a little bit trickier, but it's just a great system, and you're going to be able to use those alien powers if they're offense only or what have you. That's fine. You're not limited to just using them in your own system. So binary is pretty good. It's a pretty good one. Probably would be yellow alert, but let me know your thoughts. I'm sure I have some in my notes where I fell on the thing, but I haven't necessarily updated all of the TTS components. So let's zip over to the orange one. So no special components here for the isolated system. So this was an internet one that it's on the Warp. That's where I originally found it. I think it was posted to the news group way back in the day, probably in the 90s. But I always enjoyed this one. So evenly distributed, 3 planets to keep your power. So at the start of the game, take 1 of the Destiny cards of your color without a hazard warning, and you remove it from the game. So that's one of the first things that you're doing to isolate it, which is means that it's much harder to get out to your colonies. Whenever an encounter is made against a planet in your system, players other than yourself are restricted in bringing ships into the encounter. So the main player may bring at most 2 ships, an ally on either side may bring at most 1. You may bring ships into the encounter normally. This restriction applies to all placement of ships, including amoebic oozing, super parasite, sloth, etc. In addition, whenever other players must return ships to colonies from the gate or warp, at most 1 ship may return to a colony in your system. All other ships must return to colonies outside or to the warp if not possible. So it's another deterrent special system. Good for making deals again. And if you are in a game that has some ship zapping effects, like you've got Shadow in the game, this is going to be especially brutal. So yeah, not it's not the sexiest one, but again, if you're saying, all right, I want to have 42 systems, this is a natural fit, and so I enjoy playing this one. I have no problems choosing it. If you're given a choice, I'll be like, yeah, I'll be isolated because yeah, I like to keep my alien power. I like to keep the riffraff out of my system, and so that is what that one is good for. And so that was our 7 systems. So yeah, gas giant, world ships, the ring system, pulsar, space dust, binary, and isolated. And so yes, let me know in the comments. Do you like the look and feel of these system cards? I imagine they would probably they didn't necessarily have to be as big as an alien sheet. I actually have these. I have had these made, so I physically have versions of these, and most of the components. I haven't done all of them because some of them are very strangely shaped, and getting custom tokens is not easy. But I've been accumulating some so that I can enjoy this in real life because I do like the special systems. I've always loved the reverse hexes. I love them for their just the physical spectacle of seeing them on the table. And the unique systems, I think it's very cosmic. It's a fine addition to the game, the one that I've longed to have as part of the Fantasy Flight version of the game, and still do. So maybe one day we will get this. But yes, let me know in the comments, and in the near future I will do part 2 where we will look at the next 7 that are in the hopper here. As you can see, this is 86, so there's a lot of tokens. And of course I've removed some planets here, so I just stuck those in the bag. So don't let that fool you into thinking how much there is. But yes, that's one of the reasons that maybe Fantasy Flight balked at this, was that it was going to be a lot of punchboard. We actually did want to try to get this into Odyssey, but it was just, there was too much. There was already too much in that expansion, and adding in 42 special systems, even though not all of them have any components. So like Isolated has nothing, and Binary has just a couple of these tokens. Same thing with Pulsar, nothing for Space Dust, but yeah, one giant planet here, a bunch of rings. It adds up. That's for sure. There was a lot of punchboard that was going to be part of this expansion, and then of course 42 of these guys, and then some special cards as well. So we'll see a few more cards show up on some of these other special systems. But yes, not an insignificant number of components for sure, which is why I think making it part of its own big expansion, more aliens, of course, and the flares that go with it, but then special systems being the real attraction there. And I'd love to see a giant box designed to hold everything and organize it for you. That's the dream. I've got the broken token one, but that doesn't fit very much of the Odyssey. You can fit some of it in there. In fact, you can fit a lot of it. A lot of that stuff does fit in there. And yeah, you can probably squeeze it all in there. But also have the Calcared one that does not fit very much of the Odyssey. Some card stuff you can get in there. Doesn't fit any more aliens, and there's a lot of alien cheats in Odyssey. So yeah, that's it for this one, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.